I'm going to go over briefly what PBIS means. Wanted to give not just the staff at Rockport just kind of an update as we're in February going to get the $15,000 grant and be pushing towards full implementation, and also want to send this out to the school board so they're aware of the exciting things happening at Rockport. So this first slide here describes just the kind of tiered approach that has become basically universal when it comes to academic systems at the elementary or even the middle school or high school level, where most students are reached by the classroom interventions. They're taught by the teacher's lessons throughout the day. And then there's a set of students who above that go through the RTI process and receive targeted research-based interventions, and then the students at the top are the students who are typically in our special education programs. Now, the idea behind PBIS is that we do this for academics. Why don't we do this for behavior? And the approach has traditionally been very much the opposite, whereas you would never even think of sending a student out of the room if they're struggling in math. That's what we do with behavior. We send them to a different location. We don't reteach them. We don't go over the behaviors. And oftentimes we see those same students back again and again and again. Well, you can imagine if a student was struggling in math and you sent them out of the room and told them they needed to get better and why aren't you doing the right thing, you could imagine that they would continue to struggle. But we don't approach it like that. And through the framework of PBIS at Rockport, where you have begun to shift that tide in the other direction, we've implemented the teaching of lesson plans at the beginning of the year and at the start of the second semester, and try to do more reteaching when students are sent to the office, so that hopefully they begin to understand that what they can do besides the behavior that's getting them in trouble, what's expected. So again, this is just an overview of PBIS, and I'll go through some of these. A team-based process, proactive, so again, trying to get ahead of that curve. So when a student has committed something and ends up in the office, it's over. It's too late. They've already got it. There will be a consequence, but the focus shifts towards preventing that next time. What can you do to avoid that? And we try to practice with the student. We try to talk about strategies that they can use if they need to get attention or get help or even express frustration. It's again research-based, based on 50 years of behavior intervention. Focuses on that link between instruction and desired behavior. So again, what do teachers do best? They teach. So shifting that away from trying to reprimand students to teaching them the behaviors and the expectations and the routines that we want. I think it's a common thought that we're like, well, if we just had a place to send them where they'd know that they did something wrong. And that sometimes works, and it often works in the short term, but it doesn't give a person the skills and ability to change in the long run. And that's what we're after. And we're not after always. Sometimes we need a short-term help, but most of the time we're in it for the long run and making that student the best that they can be. It also is an emphasis on just the climate in general, trying to create that positive, nurturing climate at the school, changing the number of corrections to a focus on the positives. Most kids, most of the time, are doing what they are supposed to in the class, so trying to look out for those things. Other kids pick up on that instead of calling attention to the things that students are doing wrong. And ultimately, schools that have climates and places where students feel safe and understand the expectations are going to be schools that perform better academically, which is, again, our ultimate goal. What it's not a packaged curriculum. So this is not something that we bought or that is prescribed. This is something that a team of teachers and administration is working on to fit it for Rockport. That's what's neat about it. There's so many things that are prescribed to schools these days and often fail on the basis of not understanding the clientele, the community, the culture of the school. But this is what we make of it. So we're allowed to pick and choose from the pieces that work best. As we've done Tier 2, Mentor Rock is a thing that just fit. We had this thing that the high school in our district was doing, and it helped our PBIS program, and it was just amazing how that came together with the hard work of staff and students in our corporation. It's not just about discipline. So the discipline system has been developed. It's still there. It's not gone away. Students still have consequences, although we try to stay away from suspending students out of school for the most part, and that's definitely a focus, because not that doesn't happen or hasn't happened, but again, it takes them out of that teaching environment. I'd rather have a student in school with some school expectations rather than at home, as we know, sometimes not having the same expectations, not getting the work done or the support that they might need. It's not just for special education students. It's not just for some students. It's for all students who will have access to this at some level. How can it help? Again, the idea is to reduce the number of students in the office, frees up time for the office staff to focus on more academic, hopefully creates a better environment in all of the classrooms as well, and keeps the students where they can learn how to perform the behaviors and the expectations, the routines that we want to see out of them. So this is the framework for it. There's 7 basic components of it. We've got the common approach to discipline, the positive statement of purpose, and I'll attach our handbook for staff. 3 to 5 expectations for all students and staff. So we have 3 very simple ones, and any student at the school will hear me repeat these all the time. Be safe, be respectful, be responsible. And whenever a student gets in trouble, besides knowing what they did wrong and talking about that, we're going to talk about what the expectations are at Rockport. These are the 3 things that if you follow them, the majority of the time, you're going to be fine. We've got procedures for teaching expectations, so common set of lesson plans that teachers can use, especially about the common areas, the hallways, the bathrooms. Teachers still create their own classroom rules, but they're expected to teach those as well and to go over those with students. We've got a continuum of procedures for encouraging expectations. So again, we've implemented a monthly assembly where we encourage characteristics and attendance, and we're going to continue to expand that through our use of the little Rebel Bucks, where they are allowed to receive those for when teachers and staff catch them performing the expectations, and then they can cash those in for things. A lot of times they're non-material items too. I had 2 students the other day. One stole the principal's chair, another one wanted to shoot hoops for 10 minutes. So for a lot of good behavior, the kids get something back. It doesn't have to be anything big, but it's things that they want, that tie them to the school, that make them feel good, and to give them some ownership in the school. There's also a continuum of procedures for rule violating, so trying to really map that out so that teachers understand what is handled by the office, what should be handled in the classroom, and then giving them support when there are struggles in those areas. And that's something we'll continue to work on and expand, and I think that just being in the second year, there have been some positive growth in that area and things to work on still in that area as well. And the last one is a monitoring piece. So we sent out a staff survey that is coordinated through PBIS apps. That's put together by the University of Oregon, and they tabulate the data for us and allow us to kind of look at our implementation and where some of the holes are, and allow us to keep working to fully implement this framework so that it best assists our school and helps our students. This again, we're on Tier 2, so it's a 3-tier program. This is the first year was last year, and we rolled out most of Tier 1 this year to some extent. We worked on it last year, kind of putting it together, and had certain pieces in place. But this year, it's definitely more fully implemented. So again, the 3 positively stated school-wide expectations: be safe, be respectful, be responsible. We taught those expectations at the beginning of the year, all of them, and then we looked at the data at the end of the semester and had teachers send out lessons that triangulated with our school-wide behavior data for some reteaching time. We've got the reinforcement plan with the Rebel Bucks and the character trait assemblies, and we hope to expand that as the year goes on. We've got a team that meets monthly to plan and make recommendations and update the staff. I'm fully on board with that, and we've got a data system where now we're working through Harmony, but we're hoping to have a more robust system called Swiss, which would again through the University of Oregon help us get real time and a little more granular on the data to make even more exact decisions based on that data. The school-wide interventions, again, proactive and preventative approach. We want routines, rules, and the physical arrangements. At the beginning of the year, we went through as a staff and talked about room arrangements and dealing with difficult students, because just because we have this in place doesn't mean students aren't going to struggle. They're kids. They're going to defy expectations. They're going to push boundaries. And we want to know how to deal with that when it comes up. The point, though, in all that is that everyone knows the rules. When a student does something wrong, it's not because they don't know the rules. They don't know the expectations. It's because they've made a choice, and that changes that conversation too. This is just an example here. It's not ours exactly, but again, this is a respect. So you just see the three rules here. Ours would be respectful, be responsible, be safe, and then we would have the expectations with those in each area. But you can see there's the three rules. These are the common areas right here, and then these are the expectations stated positively and concretely. So stay in assigned area. You know what that means. Get help when it's needed. We can teach that. Quietly wait your turn. Keep to yourself in the bathroom. I mean, that's very clear. We can model that. Students know what that looks like. Again, we went over earlier this year, classroom setting systems, always an area to continue to improve, but I think teachers do, by and large, a very good job in this area. The class-wide expectations are also stated positively, taught, and encouraged. We want to maintain a ratio of 4-to-1. What that means is 4 positive statements for every one negative adult statement. So a way to build this up, I've heard as an example a lot of times, is just to greet students as they come in. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them how their day is. You're building up a positive sentiment so that when there is a correction, it's not so-and-so is so mean. The majority of the class realizes this person is here to really help me out. So-and-so has violated some of the expectations that we all share in, and it becomes a more positive experience for all the students in there, even if in that moment it might be a negative experience for that one student. Even that student, though, has heard positive affirmations from that teacher in the past, and it's not all negative, and that becomes such a powerful statement then. Active supervision just means moving around, so the days of sitting behind the desk all day, I don't know if there ever were here, but certainly are gone at this point. Redirections for minor infrequent behavior errors are still there, but we try to do it quickly and get back to the lesson. Again, not looking to derail, not looking to get into conversation with the student when they've made a mistake, but restating the expectation, letting them know what, not necessarily what they've done wrong and getting into a discussion about that, but letting them know what they need to do in the classroom rather than just simply pointing out what they've done wrong. Pre-corrections, what that means, and I see this all the time. If anyone goes into some of our classrooms, you will see that as well. When a class lines up at the doorway to go out into the hallway, you'll see a teacher, say bubbles in, or what do we do in the hallway? They wait for the choral response, all students responding that they're quiet. This is a pre-correction. Rather than picking out each student as they go down the hallway, you, and correcting them and spending that time in the hallway, they cut it off at the head and let them know what's expected and what they want to see. And by and large, that helps the majority of students do the right thing. And then, of course, effective academic instruction and curriculum is crucial. Students are going to do well in class, and they're going to have less behaviors if the curriculum's strong, if the lesson is engaging and exciting to them. I mentioned a little bit about data collection before, but it's a crucial element to what we're doing. Each semester we break down, and each month we break down the data to look at certain areas. So we often look at by location. So this will be the cafeteria, classroom, gym, hall, to look at where are we having the most referrals, and then we can talk about that, can generate a discussion about what we could do differently. Do we need to review the lessons on those? And we can triangulate that with the type of referrals. So if it's disrespect in the classroom, then we can go have everybody go over the lesson on respect. Time of day, again, just looking at when that might be most difficult for everyone. That can help us decide maybe supervision. So if there is a problem at recess, maybe we don't have enough adults out there, or maybe the adults aren't in the right areas. And we can start to use the data to ask questions and hopefully modify our adult behaviors to cut down on the number of referrals and the number of problems that students have. Per student, we often look at student referrals because sometimes we see students back time and time again. So we want to see if we need to move those students to a different intervention. Maybe what we're doing isn't working. What else do we have for that student that might be more effective in cutting down on their referrals to the office? What does it look like? These are our longer term goals. We're at, according to the staff survey, about 45% implementation of Tier 1. To be fully implemented, we want about 80%. So we've got some work to do, but again, we've got some money for training and for expanding the program, for expanding the things that we can dole out for students for incentives. And I think it's an exciting time to be implementing this. But these are the kind of longer term goals for the school. At this time, I'm gonna end, and if you have any questions, you can certainly type them or send me an email. I'll include that in the link to the video. And hopefully this has been informative and given you just kind of a brief overview of PBIS. I'm sure you'll hear more of it as we move on to trying to implement Tier 3 next year and fully implement our Tier 2 programs. Thank you.